This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. And before President Trump went to the Boy Scouts Jamboree to hand out the Make America Great Again merit badges, he assembled with victims of Obamacare, as he termed them, as they term themselves, and delivered this message to the United States Senate, mainly directed at Republicans.
They want to forget about the countless Americans they've hurt and the many that they are continuing to hurt every day by refusing to help us replace Obamacare. For the last 7 years, Republicans have been united in standing up for Obamacare's victims. Remember, repeal and replace, repeal and replace. They kept saying it over and over again. Every Republican running for office promised immediate relief from this disastrous law. We as a party must fulfill that solemn promise to the voters of this country to repeal and replace what they've been saying for the last 7 years. But so far, Senate Republicans have not done their job in ending the Obamacare nightmare. They now have a chance, however, to hopefully fix what has been so badly broken for such a long time, and that is through replacement of a horrible disaster known as Obamacare.
A solemn promise that Republicans made to the American people. A Republican president putting his Republican senators on the spot. What will come of that? Mitch McConnell doing the unusual, delving into moving this process forward without exactly knowing the number of votes he has. John McCain coming back today to vote on a procedural motion to open debate on the topic. For more on the topic, we're pleased to be joined by our friend Ed Henry. Ed Henry, who's the chief national correspondent for Fox News Channel, of course. He's also the author of a new book, and he's going to be in town tomorrow at the Cubs-Sox game. The book is 42 Faith, the rest of the Jackie Robinson story. And you're going to be doing a book signing at the Crosstown Classic tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm hoping. I mean, you've got a big game. You have a big crowd. Jerry Reinsdorf, chairman of the White Sox, invited me. You know, he was at Jackie Robinson's first game. You know, he grew up in Flatbush, not in Chicago. And I've got a couple of chapters focused on Jerry. And so, big game, Sox-Cubs, great rivalry. And I'm going to be at Section 158 at Guaranteed Rate Field starting, 6, 7 o'clock as the game gets going, up until about the 7th inning. So come on by, check out 42 Faith. I'll sign it for you. Excited to talk about that and talk about politics with you.
Hey, listen.
That's great, because you're going to the game, Dan.
Well, yeah, listen. So, Ed, I mean, you're the one selling books, not me. I'm in Section 136, so you come down to me.
Oh, my God.
And I'll buy a book. How about that?
I see how you work.
And I'll tell my friends, in my section to also buy the book.
Oh, all right, that's good. I'm coming over. You say Section 136?
136.
Yeah, what row?
Row 13.
All right.
Oh, that's bad luck.
136, row 13.
You got that pencil down? Yeah, okay.
You got the seat number 2, and now we're going to have people stalking you.
Seats 2 and 3.
You want to give out your cell numbers?
Home address.
So make sure you're there.
Yeah,
Everyone at the White Sox Cubs game. Come out, check 42 Faith. It made the New York Times bestseller list a couple weeks back, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, no, I'll have all my thuggish Sox friends there. We'll come over and we'll get some books. Yeah, we'll buy you a beer. So we'll get back to the book, but I want to start off with politics and just kind of this unusual circumstance in the Senate today, especially for a mechanic like McConnell to not know exactly how this is going to play out with his caucus.
Yeah, I mean, he's rolling the dice. I mean, you're right. Mitch McConnell is known as sort of this canny insider who, never rolls the dice, knows exactly how things are going to play out, and that's mostly worked in his career to Republicans' benefit in terms of maneuvering. But in this case, they simply don't know. I mean, I was just hosting Fox and Friends on the Fox News Channel, and we had Sarah Huckabee Sanders on. I asked her the direct question, do the Republicans have the votes? And she said, we're not sure. I mean, that is remarkable for any White House. Remember back in the Obama, Clinton, Bush days, all of those, whether you're Democrat or Republican, you want to know going in, are we going to make this or not? Because if you don't, it's going to be a defeat for the president because, he wants this to happen. But I think in fairness to the president, it's a bigger defeat if it goes down for the House and Senate Republicans. The president just came to town. The House and Senate Republicans, as you know better than anyone, you guys talk about it all the time, have been promising for 7 years, repeal and replace, repeal and replace. Obamacare is terrible, they say. And meanwhile, we're seeing some of that play out. Yes, there are some good parts of Obamacare. It's covered a lot of people who didn't have insurance before. But the exchanges, a lot of them are failing. There's a lot of states where people don't have the kind of choice that was promised by President Obama. People don't get to keep their doctor or keep their plan in every case like the President Obama promised. So long story short, I think they may just get over the hump today because I think the president's closing argument here in West Virginia yesterday is a strong one, which is, look, even if you don't like the bill itself, don't vote against getting a debate. I mean, who's against a debate?
Right.
Obamacare is struggling. Republicans have made these promises. At least have the motion to proceed, because it's not even a vote on the bill. It's a vote on having a debate. What's wrong with a debate?
Do you think that the return of Senator John McCain will energize the Republican Party to actually get something done, maybe?
It very well could. I mean, look, here's a man. Well, there are some in the Republican Party who don't think he's conservative enough. They think he's kind of a rhino, Republican in name only. I would hope that they would keep those insults back now as the man is battling brain cancer. He just had surgery barely a week or so ago, and yet he's traveling to Washington. He's consulted with his doctors, we're told, but they had originally said, the doctors, that it would be weeks before, at best, before he could come back to the Senate. So this is dramatic, and yes, that's one of the reasons why I think there's a shot here to actually get the 50 votes plus Vice President Pence being 51 to get the motion to proceed and at least get to the debate. It doesn't mean victory for Republicans on the actual bill, but it's a big, big first step if they can get it, and I think it's a shot in the arm that a man battling brain cancer is coming across country from Arizona to vote. If he can find the courage to do that, how do other Republicans who have promised the voters for years, not months, years, that they're going to repeal and replace Obamacare, how do they not step up?
Speaking of having the votes, does Attorney General Sessions have the votes inside Trump's inner circle to stay Attorney General?
It's getting brutal. I mean, yesterday the president puts his tweet out saying, my beleaguered attorney general. I've never heard a president of either party describe any cabinet official, frankly, but especially chief law enforcement officer in the land as beleaguered. Then today, more attacks. And what the president was saying was that he's upset in the tweets today that the attorney general has not launched an investigation of Bill and Hillary Clinton. Because he thinks, look, I'm taking all the heat here on Russia when there's allegations that the Ukrainians were trying to infiltrate the Clinton campaign. There's all kinds of allegations about the Clinton Foundation. You've heard that before. I won't bore you with all the details. Bottom line, Anthony Scaramucci, who's a straight talker like the president, the new communications director, just did a radio interview, I'm told, in which he said probably when asked about whether the president wants the attorney general to go, he said, I don't want to speak for the president, to be clear, but said, look, when you've got the president in this much of a dispute with his own attorney general, it's pretty clear to me that if not smoke signals, some kind of signals are being sent. And what Sarah Huckabee Sanders told us on Fox is, this is not a president who sends mixed signals. If he's mad at you, he lets you know. And so there shouldn't be any mystery to these tweets. He's very angry.
Well, there's a little bit of mystery. First of all, by the way, just as an aside, his tweeting about investigating Hillary Clinton is so catastrophically stupid, it's hard for me to fully internalize it. That is grounds for a dismissal where any action taken against Hillary Clinton. I mean, it's executive misconduct. Certainly, a defense attorney could argue that. So, I mean, he shouldn't be essentially trying to direct the Department of Justice publicly in that way.
The Attorney General now does launch an investigation.
Yeah, of course.
The world knows he did it under pressure.
Well, President Trump tweeted, where are the emails and the DNC server and the Intel leakers?
I mean, it's just so unhelpful to his own stated cause. It's a little bit bewildering for me. But with respect to Sessions and all of the sudden he's on the outs. I mean, he recused himself months ago. So it's a pretty slow burn for a guy who doesn't necessarily have a slow burn.
Yeah, well, what's happened is, you're right. I don't disagree with anything you just said, but I think for the president, the slow burn also involves his anger, right? It's been a slow burn where he's now saying, look, the news reports say that Robert Mueller, the special counsel, is expanding his investigation beyond the original mandate in some respects, now looking at the Trump business situation. And so Donald Trump is looking for, somebody to blame. And he's saying, wait a second, why? This all started with the Attorney General recusing himself, and that led to a series of dominoes that led to Robert Mueller, basically. That part is true. I mean, the recusal did lead to Mueller. But on the other hand, in fairness to Jeff Sessions, he's been busting his butt for this president. He was the first senator, a couple years back to actually endorse him. I mean, way back when in terms of loyalty. And number two, as Attorney General, what is he doing? Well, he's standing up on illegal immigration, health care fraud. He's doing his job, in short. And so that's sort of baffling, too, because here's somebody who's actually trying to carry out the president's agenda, and he's getting hammered.
And it seems like it's only a matter of time before he's fired or forced to resign, and then who's going to take his place? Or walks away. Who's going to take his place? I mean, Senator Ted Cruz, is he going to dabble in that, or possibly Rudy Giuliani?
Well, I mean, Rudy Giuliani's thrown out there, right? And then he says no. I mean, but that doesn't really mean anything because, names are bandied about and people saying, I'm not interested. We've seen before that they end up becoming interested, number one. Number two, Rudy Giuliani, it seems to me, would have the same problem as Jeff Sessions, right? I mean, he was involved in the campaign. Wouldn't he have to recuse himself from investigations of Hillary Clinton and or Russia? I mean, I'm just thinking out loud here, but he was potentially more active than Jeff Sessions in the campaign. Rudy Giuliani was very involved. Ted Cruz maybe is interesting because he's more outside the box, not somebody clearly who supported Donald Trump, during the primaries. They were bitter rivals, and so it's sort of like a team of rivals, and maybe you bring some credibility that here's a hard-charging conservative that I didn't get along with in the primaries, and I'm going outside my comfort zone. But bottom line is, I think to Dan's point a moment ago, all of this is a distraction from, I hear Trump allies and voters will hit me on Twitter and say, well, why are you talking about Russia? It's all a distraction. Well, why is the president tweeting about it then?
Yeah,
They'll tell me, why are you not talking about jobs and health care in your reports? Well, why is the president not talking about jobs and health care in all of his tweets? Hey, sure, he tweets about that sometimes, but if you look at his tweets today, there's probably 4 or 5 about Russia and about Hillary Clinton and this and that, and then there might be 1 or 2 on health care. So the president himself is allowing that to become the focus.
Well, and the other point is Rudy Giuliani on this topic. Rudy Giuliani has said Sessions was right to recuse himself.
Right.
So
correct.
And the other problem that Trump has is Jeff Sessions has a lot of friends on the Republican caucus in the Senate. He's a well-respected former United States senator. Treating him this way and dispatching him, if that's ultimately what comes, isn't going to build him any political capital on the Hill.
Yeah, and who else will want to take the job? And maybe Rudy Giuliani or someone as a loyalist will. But you're right that also there's a signal being sent, maybe that people are getting thrown under the bus.
All right, he is Ed Henry, of course, chief national correspondent for Fox News, but he's also an author, 42 Faith, the rest of the Jackie Robinson story. He's doing a book signing tomorrow at the Sox-Cubs game at the G-Spot, as I call it.
Yeah. Section 158. Yeah. But I will be in Section 136 during the game to get my free beer and to sell some books.
Seriously, take him up on that offer.
All right, thanks so much, Ed. Appreciate it.
Amy. Thanks, Dan.
Eddie joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.